So now we're looking at the area of a triangle, and there are a couple of ways to do that. The first one is by inspection, which in order to do, we need to first remind ourselves of what the units are for area. Well, the units are just the same, doesn't matter what shape it is we're looking at, so we need to remind ourselves what a square centimetre was, and that was just a little square, 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre. And what we want to try and do now is consider it in terms of the shape that we are interested in. So we want to think about splitting it into a triangle. So if I want a little triangle 1 centimetre along by 1 centimetre up, how does that link back to our square that we had just a minute ago? Well, if we split that square into two triangles and we move them both down, we can see that actually they fit one over the top of each other. So we have split it directly in half. Okay, so when we're looking at this triangle bit, we have half of the square that we were interested in. So if we consider this shape, what we can do is we can count all of the squares. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares, and we know that each triangle makes up half of a unit. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 halves, which make up another 2 whole, which gives us a total then of 8. So all we're doing here is we're just counting what we've got on the triangle. In a more particular way, we might want to try and find a formula. So using the formula that we've got to find the area of a rectangle, we've got a rectangle drawn with breadth and length on it, and the area is just what we get when we multiply them together. So area is equal to length times breadth. And what we're going to do is we're going to think about it in the same way. I don't want a rectangle. I want to think about what the deal is if I'm just interested in the triangle part. So again, we're going to split it into triangles and we're going to see how much of the rectangle that is. Well, we'll find that actually triangles overlap, we've got half of the rectangle. So the area of the shape that we are left with now is half of what it was we had before. So this new area, this triangle shape that we're left with, is half of whatever it was we got when we did length multiplied by breadth. So area of the triangle is half length times breadth. And what we want to do is we want to think about it in terms of a better term for the triangle. And so we quite often refer to the triangle as having a height and a base. And so my area of the triangle is half the base times the height. Okay, so let's look at some examples. And we want to find the area of this triangle. So it's got a height of 4 and a base of 3. So my formula, first thing I'm writing down, area is equal to half base times height. And what we are remembering is we're remembering our arithmetic here. And so what we've got is we can do it in a couple of different ways. We don't have to find half the base first and then multiply it by the height. So what we're doing is the first thing we're doing is substituting the numbers in. Okay, and because we are multiplying those three things together, I can do them in whichever order is easiest. And so rather than trying to find half of 3, that's not a very easy step, 3 is an odd number, I'm going to find half of 4. Half of 4 is just 2, and so 2 times 3 is 6. So that leaves me here with an area of 6 square centimetres. Moving on to the next one, we've got 12 and 3, so the first thing I'm doing, writing down my formula. Area equals half base times height. Next step, substitute in my numbers. So this one, a little bit more complicated because it's upside down, but still has a base of 12 and a height of 3. So I substitute my numbers in, and I want to find half of 12 times 3. If we wanted to, we could do 12 times 3 and then half it. But again, I'm looking at 12, going that's an easy number to half. So I'm going to half 12 to give me 6. 6 threes are 18, and so my area here is 18 square centimetres. Another example, we've got a triangle that's 12 by 12. First thing we're doing, writing down our formula, so area equals half base times height. Substitute in my numbers, I get area equals a half times 12 times 12. Again, a few different ways we could do it. Easy enough, just a half 12 to give us 6, multiply it by 12, and that gives us 72 square centimetres. Finally then, another one, 10 and 15. First thing I do is I write down my formula, area equals a half base times height, substitute my numbers in, so I've got a half times 10 times 15, and what we're doing here is we started to rotate the triangle round. So another reason that it doesn't matter is that depending on how we choose to look at that triangle, we could have a base of 15 and a height of 10, or a base of 10 and a height of 15. Okay, so it really just depends how it is we've chosen to look at it. And so another example of why the order in which we multiply these things together doesn't particularly matter. Okay, but it is easier here to do half of 10. So half of 10 is just 5, and 5 15s are 75, and that gives me a final area of 75 square centimetres.